So, Sally, boundaries. Um, you've picked the theme for this chat today, boundaries. Is it something that's been on your mind, possibly? Do you want to have a little bit of a explanation as to why you chose this topic at this moment in time?
Yeah, I think I've always struggled since having Noah with boundaries, and I don't quite think I'm sure in what a boundary is, whether I'm setting them properly, um, and how to kind of deliver them. Because I do have a very strong-willed little boy. Um, he's definitely brought up a lot of things that I have kind of pushed aside my whole life. So having to deal with conflict, I hate it. I'm really, really bad at dealing with conflict. Um, I struggle to say no. I'm a very much a people pleaser, and I find it very hard to say no to things. But I've had to find that within my motherhood. I have to say no. I can't let him just touch a fire. I can't let him,
Yeah,
you know, do really dangerous things. So I've got to find reasons. I've got to set boundaries. I've got to say no to things. It's what's the difference between a boundary, and being assertive, saying no. Also, the main reason is for setting boundaries, not just with my son, but mainly with other adults. So
yeah,
family members, I'm struggling a lot with that. To do with snacks and eating. I've got a lot of things I like to give my son that I find are healthy and work for him. I've got my routines and things like that that work. And I find that people don't seem to listen to that, or they have their own things they like to give him. And I'm struggling with setting boundaries in that aspect. So yeah, it's quite a lot.
yeah.
Whether it's a boundary or not, what is a true boundary, and how to set them, and how to figure out what my boundaries are really.
Yeah, that's interesting. When it's a difficult thing, isn't it? And when you
Yeah.
um feel at times there is a situation that's happening when you feel like you should have a boundary there. Does
Yeah.
does does that happen? Do you have a certain thought or feeling in your body when you know when you kind of sense that a boundary I should be able to put a boundary here and I'm not.
Yeah, I get frustrated with myself, and also whatever it is that's happening, I feel a little bit triggered. So it could be I'm irritable, or there's just a feeling in my stomach of butterflies. So I don't know if there's a bit of anxiety with that, because I can feel a bit of a conflict coming up, or I
Yeah,
feel like I need to say no to this, and I feel awful if I don't. And I come away um just feeling horrible that I haven't actually honoured that feeling that's
yeah,
bubbling up. And it's a little bit of butterflies in my stomach, a bit of a nauseous feeling really, because I know that I find that really hard to do.
yeah, yeah. So
Um,
when you probably reflect afterwards, you know, if something's happened. So given the example of snacks, for example, with another adult, and you feel like you should have a boundary for that, but actually you find it difficult to put one in place at
yeah.
that moment in time. Afterwards, when you reflect on it, how does that come up for you then?
Um, I think I just play it over in my head. I think about what was said, what I could have said, um, how I could go about it next time. And then when the moment comes up again and I'm faced with the person, I just find it really difficult. So yeah, I probably beat myself up about it a little bit, and it's something that's on my mind. Like, why didn't I just
Yeah,
say what I wanted to say? Why didn't I just say no? This is how I like it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
can I say it in a polite way without, sometimes I feel like I maybe snap, or I come
yeah,
across the way I don't want to really. I come across in a negative way, because it kind of fizzles up in my throat, and then I'm projecting it out in a quite an aggressive way
Yeah.
when
So
I don't want that.
do you feel like it's for me, and I'll talk about it a little bit longer. Your physical symptoms when you're faced with that as a situation that you're challenged with, and
Yeah,
you're not sure how to respond in the situation, even though you've, like you said, you've practiced it, going
yeah,
over and over again, what to say in that situation again. I'm going to say this. If
yeah,
this happens again, I'm going to say this. So there's something that's not allowing that to take place. You
yeah,
know, there's something that's stopping you physically,
yeah.
from using the verbal words that you want to say. And
Mm,
if you think about the sensations that you're feeling, you might feel a little bit nauseous, you're starting to feel a little bit panicky.
yeah,
They are the signs that your body is not coping with that situation, that you're starting to go into kind of a threat response. So that for that situation is threatening you in some way.
mm,
And there's a couple of things is to try and figure it out. What exactly is it that you feel threatened by? Now,
yeah,
a couple of things have come up when you were talking about it. One is perhaps um, feeling like how you don't want to come across as upsetting
mm,
somebody else.
yeah,
So in you kind of, I would like to just say this, but actually I'm not really sure how to say it in a way that won't offend somebody.
yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or from, if it's, your child's perspective, I don't want to say anything in a way that's going to create a disastrous situation. You've got a 3-year-old.
Oh yeah. Oh,
No
definitely.
is the word they don't like more than anything.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Because they're
definitely.
starting to assert boundaries,
Mm,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and for me, one of the things that you can do, which is quite interesting, and obviously I didn't do this when I was a mum, because I just parented in a similar way, basically to my parents parented, with slight adjustments.
yeah.
If I could go back and know what I know now, I'd probably parent a lot differently.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
but a child, young children, once they start to kind of know that they're separate from you,
Mm,
and actually they can have their own likes, dislikes, triggers,
mm,
things that they don't like, they start to say no. They
yeah,
start to put boundaries in place. And actually, that does create a bit of a conflict, because what we're doing as adults is kind of not allowing them to set those boundaries,
yeah, yeah.
which in essence perpetuates the cycle of, I can't set a boundary because I don't want to upset somebody, and
Yeah.
it's that whole, as children we're not really shown how to set caring, loving, but assertive boundaries, because the adults in our life are busy.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
They might have, if you think about it, for food, as we've spoke about a food situation, you might have spent ages making food, or you might have spent money on a takeaway, that kind of thing. Give it to your child. They don't like the color of the bowl. They don't
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
the way it's been presented. They wanted fish fingers instead of chicken nuggets in their mind.
Yeah,
They're reacting to their instincts. They're not being awkward. They're actually, as much as we might think, they're just trying to push my buttons. They're asserting their wants, needs, likes, and dislikes. I don't like
hmm,
that. I don't want to do this.
yeah, yeah,
I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
yeah.
I want to do it this way. All of those no's we get from children and reactions, they don't know how to say things properly yet.
No,
They haven't
exactly.
practiced setting their boundaries. They just react by screaming, or, we know how that they're like. But our boundaries are triggered from that. Because when we were children and we didn't like things and we didn't want to do things and we didn't want to take part in things, our boundaries weren't listened to, because again, we had to fit in with parents' busy lives. So it's a really difficult thing if you've never had your own boundaries accepted.
Yes.
To
Oh,
try
yeah.
and put them in
Yeah.
place.
I haven't seen it in that way before, actually, because I kind of look back at my childhood and I think my mum was not very strict with me at all. And my dad was really, really, would do. I was a good kid. I was a people pleaser, but I never really got in trouble for anything, and I never really got told no because I didn't do anything where they would have to say no.
Yeah.
So in my head, they weren't strict parents, but maybe I was just playing the role of a really good people pleaser as well. So
Yeah.
I didn't step out in that sense. So I do struggle with having a strong-willed child that has done everything that I would never do as a child. So it's really uncharted territory because, yeah, like I say, I've never had the no from my parents with anything. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never heard them say no. So I'm not used to it, and I'm not used to saying that back to my child is a really scary, and to other people is a really daunting thing because I'm just not used to it.
Yeah. But what you've probably done, Sally, is there's, people think there's, if you think about from a threat response, there's,
Yeah.
fawning. I don't know if you've heard of fawning. Fawning is a people pleasing response. And it's when you feel threatened, you try and charm the other people around you so that
Yeah.
they're on your side. It's more, it's kind of, it, it's a more thought out way to avoid any threat, to avoid having to have any conflict.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no, but I'm going to smile sweetly so people are pleased with me and are
Yeah.
happy with me and think I'm nice. And then eventually they might let me have what I want
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm a good girl, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and actually it's really easy if you've got, a good kid
Mm.
that understands that shouting at somebody is not going to get me what I want.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's either through observation,
Mm.
observing how other people say they, you may have siblings in your family that might not have been as people pleasing,
Yeah.
and been a bit more strong-willed. So
Mm.
you've observed, or you've observed other children doing it. And actually, if you're a child and you observe another child um, being really strong with their boundaries,
Mm.
I am not doing that. Whatever you do, I'm not doing it. We see it in schools. You see it even with teenagers. You see it
Oh
with your
yeah.
own child. I am not doing that. Whatever you do, I'm not going to do it.
Mm.
Whatever that brings up for you, you've possibly watched that before and thought, oh my God, I would never do that because the shit is going to hit the fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't want to have to be recipient, of that. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know if that brings anything up for you, that actually
It
it's,
could be with my brothers that were quite challenging, very challenging behaviours, and I think I've probably heard a lot of my parents' headache over that. So I
yeah.
probably,
And
yeah.
it doesn't even have to be your parents at school. You went to school, you had other adults around you. You would have watched other children that didn't have, that didn't have, the same leniency as you, and think, I would never do that.
Oh,
And
totally.
that's the
Yeah.
response probably that you're having with Noah. God, I would
It
never
is.
do that. I would never have done that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what goes through my mind. I'm like, how, where has he got this from? Because as a child, I would have never done that. Yeah, I did. I definitely have that playing on in my
Yeah,
brain. What? Why are you not just doing everything I say like I did as a child?
yeah. And that's, if you kind of think about what you said, that is saying, why are you not a people pleaser like me?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
why are you
Yeah.
not? doing that. But one of the issues is, so if we think, we're doing this as a kind of rhythmic, rooted parenting. So I'll give you a little bit of looking back at how parents dealt with boundaries, perhaps in the past. I mean, a lot of boundaries in the past, what we've really got to think of, were punishment and compliance. So, like you said, I would never do anything wrong because I don't want to get told off. And the further we go down the years, children did have a lot of punishment. It was reward and carrot and stick almost, wasn't it? And we kind of know that that's not really the way that we know a healthy brain works. So for past generations, there was a kind of accepted way of doing things, which possibly did get the results that a parent wanted. They could, and a lot did, smacking, hitting, even, I'm old enough that when I was at school, we still had punishment in school. We had the slipper at primary school. We had, when I was in Scotland, we had a leather strap. If we talked in line, we had to go out of line, put our hands out, and we got a strap. Yeah. And then, when I was in secondary school, we had the cane. So I've had all of those. But, and from a parent perspective, I have, my parents have used things to, so we come from a generation of, from centuries and centuries of children that have been kind of bullied into compliance almost, but that's been accepted. That was an accepted kind of way of doing it. So it's really different now. We're in the world in 2026 when there aren't that shared agreement of how to bring a child up. It doesn't exist at the moment. There's still a lot of people in the old camp of punish them, give them stronger boundaries, don't let them do this. And then there's others that say, let's work a little bit more with the child. Let's encourage them to set healthy boundaries. Let's show them a way to say things rather than screaming and throwing a cup.
Which feels so alien to even me. I didn't get the punishment, but I kind of acted the right way. I did the right things, and it's really odd for me to. It is a bit weird to give a child that much ownership and that much kind of, because we never had that. So it is a weird concept, even though you want your child to have that. It feels so alien because it's just not.
Yeah.
It wasn't considered for us.
Why did you think you complied and did what was expected of you?
I don't know if it was maybe the separation of my mum and dad when they got divorced, maybe when the family split. I don't remember feeling anxiety, but maybe I wanted to, I don't know, maybe it was so I wasn't rejected, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe I can't think why I was like that, because they weren't shouty parents. They weren't. There was no.
Why do you think you struggle with it now? Because it's the same. It's a similar thing. People are doing things that you don't accept, and you need to kind of say, I don't want this, and you're struggling with saying that. So what do you think is it that makes you struggle with setting boundaries with people? You kind of have mentioned a little bit that you don't want to upset someone.
Yeah, it's almost like I've got this crazy guilt inside me, which I've always held. And I know mothers have this, mothers get the guilt. It just comes with it, doesn't it? You feel guilty about everything you do, if you're doing this right or that right. So that's natural. But I think as a child, I've held this huge guilt that if I hurt someone, it's like I can't cope with that feeling of hurting anybody. It's like I would take it really badly myself if I was to annoy a parent or
yeah
I think it was probably a separation thing with my parents being so split. And I don't know. I think it could have been to do with that, maybe, because I know that something to do with my brothers as well. So they were with one parent, I was with the other. So it was a bit of fear of that separation. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm not, we're obviously we're not therapists. I'm just trying to get you to understand, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
what the block, because it's a
Mm,
block, isn't it? You know, it's something that you're finding difficult to
yeah.
do. But again, as I said, because of this lack of clear
Mm,
expectations that we have as a whole society, you know, there's so
yeah.
many different varieties. It's really difficult to have a shared understanding. So there's no wonder that you don't know whether you're doing the right thing, and you're
Oh, yeah.
thinking about it and reflecting, because as you've said, you want to do the right thing. You know, you're coming from a good place of I want to make everyone happy. You know, I don't want to be the source of discontent for
Yeah.
everybody. But it is, you know, it's really difficult. We're in a fast pace, a
Mm,
constant, you know, noise and things that we've got to do with modern life. So we are busy.
yeah.
You know, and if we think, we've discussed before, you know, that the natural world moves in cycles, you know, it moves in day and night, it's the seasons turn, you know, it growing at its own pace, but our lives and our bodies sometimes move faster. You know, our minds they're just running all the time, and sometimes we don't really have that time to reflect in a positive way,
Yeah.
because what that becomes is anxiety. You know, the
Yeah.
reflection on things is like, oh, I feel too, that makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm not even going to think about it.
Mm,
You know, so we might put it off instead of that. But loving boundaries, you know, is kind of different.
yeah.
You know, staying present sometimes. Again, you know me, I come back to being present and being in the moment all the time. But you know, holding those big emotions of a child and of another adult, possibly
Yeah.
something that you find difficult, and that's why you'd rather have happy emotions and everybody be nice and calm and happy, because
Yeah.
actually for you, you know, little Sally and Sally now probably find it really difficult to cope with big emotions.
Yeah.
And they may have not been encouraged, so you tried to push them down, or
Yeah.
you know, I'm smiling, I'm happy, I don't care what's happening, I'm good with it. I know I've done that in the past, you know, I've kind of
Yeah.
just tried to, I can get through this, I'm fine, all good, everything's great.
Yeah. I think
And
that
underneath you're like a
yeah.
duck, you know, like all smooth on
Yeah.
the outside, and all your body, everything underneath is just like, what the hell is this? um
Totally.
yeah, so that taking a moment just to slow down and reconnect with the rhythms of our bodies, and you know, sometimes is what we and our children need, because the children are rushed sometimes. I don't know if you find sometimes, you know, the boundaries are people rushing. I haven't got time to think, haven't got time to one question why they're doing something.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
um you know, and so